Corey Swergos here for Slap News with Kurt Holobaugh, tough competitor in the 31st season. How you doing, my man?
What's going on, man? Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, my man. This is the first time we speak to you. Can you please give me like a 60, 90-second breakdown of your history and how you've came to this point in your career?
Yeah, for sure. As a young kid, always into fighting. After I graduated high school, found a local gym that was right down the road from my house. It was a Gracie Baja Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Started training under Professor Rafael Elwanger, black belt from Carlos Gracie Jr. Started fighting amateur, went undefeated. Said, hey, I'm going to turn pro. Started fighting professional, was undefeated, and then I started to think about maybe being able to fight in the UFC one day. Got a late notice call for the very final strike force. Took that opportunity. Wound up earning a contract to the UFC. Was cut a few times. Made it back through Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. Won another contract. Was released again. Still fighting all around the world. And here we are. Got a call for the Ultimate Fighter Season 31. Now I'm back at it again.
Awesome, my man. A true veteran of the MMA game. Where does the inspiration and drive come from for you to be able to continue going through all of those ups and downs of, signing contracts and being released and signing contracts, etc.?
Just having fun, and being a competitor, being a big inspiration for, my kids and my family that are coming up, and also competing in martial arts like jiu-jitsu and boxing and stuff like that. So, just being a good inspiration for them, a good role model for them, and just my love to compete.
Awesome, my man. Getting on TUF, being part of that, was that your career highlight, or have you had other highlights and successes that you kind of hold in higher regards?
Man, I've been in the UFC several times. I have several UFC fights. I fought in Madison Square Garden, on the biggest stage.
Amazing.
The world's most famous arena. But man, the Ultimate Fighter was so much different, and I think right now the Ultimate Fighter is definitely the highlight of my career.
Mm-hmm.
It was a blast, and as right now the episodes are running, I had just fought 2 weeks ago, and set me up for now a semifinals fight that's going to be even bigger than the quarterfinals fight. So I got to say, the Ultimate Fighter, man, it's put me out there. It's the way I've been describing it is being on the Ultimate Fighter. People are getting to see you or see me for 12 straight weeks on the show. When you fight in the UFC, you're going to more than likely be on the undercard unless you're, a mainstream star and you're on a pay-per-view card. But even then, you get a little bit of airtime, and then you get your 15 minutes in the ring, and that's it after everything's done. So this has been going on. I think it's did a lot more for my career than any of my UFC fights so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, UFC is putting out events, seemingly every week. So the time that you're on that card, you kind of get a 1 week window of where you're thrusted into the limelight. The Ultimate Fighter obviously was, the original. I feel like there's a sense of heritage, a sense of pride, a sense of legacy that comes along with it. Obviously, the Contender Series is a little bit newer. We're seeing a lot of the guys from the Contender Series actually climb the ranks, be very, very highly, have had great level of success and being very highly ranked. Being part of both of these series, do you think there's one or the other that is more conducive to, propelling athletes to the highest level of the sport?
Well, first off, you got to go back to the Ultimate Fighter, right? Who knows where the UFC or the sport of mixed martial arts would be at today if the UFC did put that very first Ultimate Fighter out to build it up to what it is today, And the thing about that, there's only 31 seasons of the Ultimate Fighter. I'm pretty sure you've had a lot more than 31 cards of the Contender Series. So the Contender Series is almost like a feeder league to the UFC. It's a little bit different, and but the guys get the same type of experience. You make good money doing it, and but I feel like the Contender Series is just more of a set fight card where they can do so many more, right? It's not a reality TV show, and that's the difference. It's a regular fight card compared to the Ultimate Fighter that is your reality TV show.
Oh, absolutely, my man. So I know obviously you won your first match. You're coming up your second match to be aired here, like you said, and kind of in the semifinals. What has it been like working with Chandler and being able to, see how that, to see his training style and philosophy compared to what you're used to?
It was awesome. The training styles was very similar to what I'm used to, but just Chandler's knowledge of being around so long and being in all these mainstream huge fights that he's been in, has really, I think, took me to another level. I mean, some of the stuff that we were doing was the main reason I wanted to be on Chandler. Never for 1 second did I want to be on Connor's team. Just I know how hard Chandler works, and I knew that Chandler would be pushing us pretty hard. So I enjoyed it. Chandler's one of the most awesome guys in the world, and yeah, man, he would be a great coach. I know he never will be. He wants to, just be able to fight, and being a coach is hard, but man, he was a great coach.
Yeah. Win, lose, or draw, however this series plays out, are you going to be incredibly thankful for the opportunity here? Like I said, regardless of the outcome.
100%. And what's crazy is you see a lot of these guys that were on the Ultimate Fighter before, and then for some reason couldn't handle it, left the show because of their girlfriend was gonna be mad, or girlfriend cheating on them, or just couldn't handle it. I'm like, man, if that should be every fighter's dream, is not only to be in the UFC, but to be on the Ultimate Fighter, because you get it's like a fighter's paradise, right? And you get to be in a super nice house. You get to have all the food and any type of food you want. You're shuttled to and from training sessions 2 times a day with some of the best coaches in the world. You got everything at your disposal, everything that you would need to become the best fighter in the world is there, and you can use it. So, man, no matter what happens, I'm blessed and so thankful to get that opportunity, and I'll be happy 100%.
Awesome, my man. I want to kind of ask you, Power Slap blowing up right now, very similar to where the UFC started 20 plus years ago. I'm sure you've heard Dana say that. I heard, from some of the other guys that the only time they gave you access to television was for the UFC nights on the weekend, but then they would also bring in the television for you to watch Power Slap. How much of Power Slap have you been able to see, and what's your initial reaction?
I've seen it quite a bit, and yeah, when we was in the house, the only time they would bring the TV in was for a UFC card, and they also did let us watch Power Slap as well. I don't know, man, it's entertaining. I don't know if I would consider Power Slap a sport, and I mean that's just me personally, because I feel like something that anybody can really get up and go do. Is not really a sport, and it's like, I don't even know how you train for it. I mean, you don't have to be in shape, so and like I was saying, anybody can do it, but I'm not knocking on the sport, or I'm not knocking on Power Slap, man. It's entertaining. If you like watching people get hit and knocked out, I mean, that's the thing for you to watch.
If you don't think it's a sport, like what do you think it is? And do you think there's a place for it in combat? Well, I was going to say combat sports, but do you think there's a place for it in, I'll say, entertainment?
Right. It's definitely entertainment. I don't know exactly what I think you can call it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess you would have to call it a sport. I don't know another name for it, but and I'm sure the guys that are competing, and keep in mind, there's a lot of lower level slap leagues too. But now with Dana and the UFC buying the slap league, these guys are probably going to start making some good money. But here's the thing. Another thing to me is like, man, how many times can you get knocked out? Because you see guys getting knocked out worse than you would probably get knocked out in the UFC. Y'all probably seen some worse knockouts on slap than the UFC. So I don't know, man. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Obviously, Dana's been touting that, these fighters are going through the same medical checks that you guys do in the UFC. So I think that helps bring a sense of legitimacy. Right. Obviously, there's definitely an argument to be had with, blows to the head and, the prolonged effects from multiple blows to the head. Right now we're seeing like the average, length of a career is, approximately 2 fights, or less for these fighters. So we are seeing it being very, very short. I'll be the first one to say that obviously the rules and the commission continue to evolve.
Right.
Power slap number one, was like 7 out of the 10 matches ended in knockout. And, we fast forward power slap number 3 and, the knockout rate was, 3 out of 8. So we're seeing a massive change kind of unfold in front of us. And so we're seeing a lot more matches go the distance versus, getting that instant highlight reel knockout. Of course, everybody sees that on social media. That's what kind of consumers are craving. I think we are seeing it. It's still very young. It's very new. I do think that, these leagues can exist with different demographics, no different than MMA and boxing. You have boxing fans that are very, polarizing towards boxing that don't like MMA. And I think we have MMA fans that don't like slap. And I think that's perfectly fine. Obviously, it's a big world with a lot of people. But, from your experience and your training, your background, being a mixed martial artist, is there anything on either the offense and or the defensive side, potentially of receiving and giving a slap that you think could help these slap fighters?
I probably really wouldn't know, but I can say I would definitely think guys that are coming from boxing or MMA, some sort of martial art like that would definitely help. These guys been throwing hooks their whole life if they've been boxing or doing martial arts. So transferring, going to the slap, I think that would give them a huge advantage. And I know, a lot of former fighters or even current fighters are a lot of the guys that are doing it. So, I'm a fan of it. I watched the last one. I was actually in Vegas and I wanted to go to it.
Yeah.
I actually hit up a guy and I'm like, hey man, they selling tickets yet? And he's like, no man, unfortunately they don't have no tickets. I'm like, dang. Man, I wanted to go see it because when we were doing some training sessions on The Ultimate Fighter, they had them going on inside the Apex, but they wouldn't let us go watch it because it was on TBS.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dang man, I want to go watch one live. That would just be cool.
Totally,
But,
man. Yeah.
So yeah, I just think that MMA fighters or boxers have more of an advantage, and I don't know the stats on MMA fighters versus guys that's never done MMA, but that'll probably be a cool stat to check out.
Yeah, absolutely, my man. And yeah, I can tell you, being there in person, it is a very different experience than watching it on TV. And the kind of the cool thing about it is that these athletes, are being very fairly compensated for what they're doing. And the money is life changing for the athletes that do decide. The last card, the top grossing athlete, made $40,000 US. That guy like Wolverine has now grossed over $100,000 in 6 months from competing on 3 cards. So kind of cool to see these individuals be able to make lives and careers for themselves. Right now, slap fighting, like I said, is a very niche sport. The fans of Slap News and the people that follow along with us are very, rabid and passionate about it. And the guys that support the sport, our fans jump on and support those athletes as well, Kurt. So I'd love it if you can drop your social media handles for everybody so that everyone listening to this can go over and follow you and follow your career and support you along in your journey.
Yeah, for sure. For everybody wanting to follow me and keep up, Instagram, Kurt the Hurt Holobaugh. Give me a like, give me a follow. Any kind of questions anybody wants to ask, man, hit me up. And yeah.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you. Much love.
Yeah, man. I thank you for having me on.